Yo, 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 good day to all of you. All right, today we're gonna have a primer on Singapore savings bonds. This is a very conservative investment instrument that a lot of investors would probably give a miss. I'm going to talk a little bit about why Singapore savings bonds play a very important role for the local retail investor, and it is definitely something that should not be ignored if you take investing seriously in Singapore. All right, so why Singapore savings bonds? All right, they're the safest investment in Singapore, and most importantly for retail investors, they are a powerful estimator on the risk-free rate in Singapore, right? So in finance class, students always employ equations where there is a variable called RF, but nobody really knows what RF is. If you are an investor in Singapore, in my humble opinion, I think Singapore savings bonds, the average return over 10 years, in this case on April 2025 at 2.69, that is the bare minimum that you should be expecting if you make an investment in something. All right, so you can tell people that Singapore savings bonds is returning 2.69%. Why are we trying to buy, for example, some kind of endowment plan that pays a lower amount, right? So that's something that's very useful for retail investors here. All right, and you can get information on Singapore savings bonds by going to the MAS website. Okay, all right, now more in Singapore savings bonds. Okay, you can buy them in denominations of $500 up to a maximum of $200,000 per individual CDP account. All right, so if a husband and wife, they have their own CDP accounts, the family can buy up to $400,000. Okay, and an interesting detail is that it pays a coupon rate equivalent to the interest listed on this table every 6 months from the date of issuance. All right, and so every single bond, there is a projected interest rate that it will pay, and it will pay half the amount every 6 months. All right, you can perform the calculation. Within the first 6 months, you can expect 2.49 multiplied by the principal that you've paid divided by 2. Okay, yeah. Do take note that in the month of April right now, for the first 3 years of holding on to the bond, your returns will be lower than the CPF ordinary account. So for the folks that want to consider putting your money through a voluntary contribution to CPF or retirement some top-up scheme, right, that is probably a better move than putting your money in SSBs right now. Now, this graph actually demonstrates why it is so important to at least keep track of the returns you will get when you buy Singapore savings bonds, right? For a certain period of time, when the interest rate is going up, right, that period it's going to be great for banks because banks can raise interest rates. Floating rate loans would give the banks more money, right? But recently, you can tell that interest rates in Singapore is clearly coming down, and so I would expect that for retail investors, this is a good sign to actually go a little bit heavier on real estate investment trusts. All right, so this is a very good way of creating some kind of signal for retail investors. Okay, and just before I move on to the demo for this video, before buying a Singapore savings bond, ensure that you know your 12-digit CDP number. Okay, just make sure you do that because when you go onto the web page to actually make an application, the banking website might put on default a different CDP number. If you own multiple accounts like me, that can be very, very annoying. All right. Okay, do note that if you have a joint account with your spouse, a joint account with your child, or a joint account with your mom, these joint accounts cannot buy Singapore savings bonds. Okay, and when you apply to buy Singapore savings bonds, there is a fee of $2 Okay, so you have to make an application first, and the bond will be issued to you at the beginning of the following month. All right, so in this case, I buy a bond today. The bond will arrive in my CDP early May. Okay, so check your CDP only after that. All right. I might consider making a later video that shows how to redeem a bond, but generally from the MAS website, it costs $2 to redeem a bond, and the proceeds will only come back at the beginning of the following month with accrued interest with the same principal repaid. All right. So just take note that if you own a Singapore savings bonds, there will be a short-term loss of liquidity of about a month or so. All right. Here's a hot tip for folks who enjoy investing in local companies for dividends like myself. If you've been playing with dividends for a very long time, you will realize that when you play with dividend stocks, there is a tendency to have months where you don't get paid dividends. And the month of January and July are normally the worst months to be a dividends investor. So if you were to apply for Singapore Savings Bond in June or December, you will be issued a January or July bond, and then the bond will then pay on these so-called dry months. Okay, and that's something for people to consider about. All right, and without further delay, let's get to our demo. Hello everyone, I'm now at the DBS iBanking page, and I'm going to walk through and show everyone how to invest in SSB bonds, Singapore Savings Bonds. All right, so let's do this. Go to invest, go under Singapore Government Securities. Once you click on that, you will come upon this page that asks you what kind of securities you want to invest in. We are looking at Singapore Savings Bonds. All right, and there's one bond available right now, so let's go ahead and click on that. Right, and this is the Singapore Savings Bond that is currently available right now. It has a tenure of 10 years. The offer has opened on the 1st of April for this year, and it will close on the 25th of April at around 9 p.m. Okay, so let's make an application. And what it will do is it will provide some more information that, for example, says how much you need to pay when you're making this application. So there is a $2 fee to actually process this request. Okay, quickly scroll all the way down. All right, and you will find that you can invest a minimum of $500. So let's put in 500. Okay, and there is a CDP account number that you would have to sort of apply for. All right, I'm keying in my CDP account number. All right, make sure you know your CDP account number before you actually come to this page. All right, because otherwise the default number that it has is actually a joint account, and only personal accounts are allowed to actually own Singapore Savings Bonds. Okay, make sure it's debiting from the proper account. So in my case, I have to make sure that it's taken from my POSB savings account, right? And click next. Okay, and you can perform a submission after that. And that's basically it. Your application is submitted. If you're successful, you'll be able to see your holdings in your CDP account on the first working day of next month. All right, that's all you need to do to apply for Singapore Savings Bonds, one of the safest investments in Singapore. Thank you very much.